Hey friends, we are back with another chart, and today we have a 3-5 manifestor chart. I don't know what's going on with this effect, but I'm not able to make myself smaller, so we're going to have to make it do what it do. But this is an exciting topic today. Today we are going to look at this chart and help this individual understand the circuitry, the hanging gates, and all those kind of things. They are curious about how the hanging gates affect them, how it affects their circuitry, and just how it impacts how they show up. And so we are going to kind of journey through that journey, what it means for them to, how it impacts their manifestor tendency, how it impacts them being a 3-5, their emotional their emotional authority, right? So we're going to like kind of process and go through all of that. I clearly have my notes because we know I go on tangents. So we're going to really just go through a journey with this chart, okay? So this is a 3-5 manifestors chart. Y'all, I have so much to say about manifestors, but that's not why we're here, okay? That's not what they asked. Okay, so first off, this is our 3-5 manifestor, right? And so what that means for a manifestor is that their creative spark comes in bursts. And they're not designed to work like our generators. Remember, and I say remember because we've talked about this in previous videos, a manifestor is here to initiate. That is what they do. They get things started, they get things moving, they get things going, okay? So they are an energy type, but like they're not an energy type like our manifesting generators and our generators, because they don't have that sacral energy. They don't have that energy to keep going. But they do have the energy to start something, to begin creating, right? But they do need breaks in it, and like they are not known to necessarily finish things. They might start things, but then someone else comes and follow through. So that's what we want to know about our manifestors. So when you think about a manifestor in that sense, you also think about the fact that they are here to work with the other in one way or another. So what do that look like in this person's chart? Okay, so they also have an emotional authority. If we aren't used to seeing that, y'all, listen, I don't know what's going on with this effect, but like I can't point like I used to, but the emotional authority is right here. Okay, it's the brown one right there. Okay, so that's where the emotional solar plexus is. And so with their emotional authority, their clarity comes over time. No truth is in the now. So decisions land best after riding the wave, feeling both the highs and the lows. Now, what is interesting about this manifestor is that they have two channels. You see here that black and that red. So they have two channels that is defining their emotional solar plexus. And so what I would recommend you do is you look up those two channels to understand how that wave works, right? And then you read about it, and then you go and just pay attention to yourself and see how that wave feels for you. And those are two different waves. One of them is a high and low. One of them, I think, like kind of grows over time and then have that boom. So just look it up, check it out, and see how it manifests for you. But this is someone who was meant to make decisions after waiting for clarity, so not in the moment. The other thing is this individual has single definition, okay? So let's talk about what I mean about definition in this instance, right? Because I talked about in other videos how definition can be different forms, right? We can just talk about just gates, right? Those defined gates where we have the purple around it. We could be talking about centers where we have the color centers. You know, we could be talking about the channels, you know, the full channel. You see here where the red goes to the one gate goes to another gate. They're connected. There's a natural flow for them. Okay, so in this instance, we're talking about how the defined centers communicate with each other in this chart. So there are instances where not all the defined centers are connected. However, this case, there is a clear connection between all the centers. So the ajna is connected to the throat, and the throat is connected to the emotional solar plexus, which means that this is a clear ability for all of this individual's defined centers to communicate with each other. There's no break. And so when someone has this kind of definition where all their defined centers are able to communicate with each other, they process information internally without needing someone else's energy to complete the circuit. Lucky is looking for snacks, y'all. Excuse me, Lucky, we're working. For this kind of individual, things tend to click faster and feel more self-contained compared to people with split definition. I have a split definition, and I say all the time, sometimes it takes a little while for things to process for me. So I personally have learned not to rush myself, because sometimes it just takes a little while for even clarity to come to me, especially if I'm getting down low, especially if I'm like, my splenic is hitting, and sometimes it takes a little while for it to process, okay? And so I give myself that break, because I feel like for me, my splenic and my throat is not connected. So it takes a little while, I think, for my processing to happen. And, so basically this individual won't necessarily feel like they have that problem, because there's only one aspect of them. And that aspect of them is like clearly able to communicate completely. When you have these kind of splits, it feels like you're being pulled in different directions from different aspects of you. And so when you have that single definition, you're more likely to feel internally consistent. But that doesn't mean you won't be impacted by the energy around you. And we're going to talk about that when we talk about these hanging gates, which we're going to get into next. So I'm going to just start a whole new video so that we are like breaking these up. Look at me getting organized. Hey, y'all.